Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for To Your Eternity, chapter 147.5. When we last left our heroes, Fushi, after his last conversations with Momori and Mizuha, went home, thinking about, what Momori said about using the knockers to better herself, and just kind of wondering how anyone could want to die in a world that has such abundance. Which he quickly finds out how someone could be unhappy, at least, when he comes home, and he just finds complete and total chaos from the other immortals, except for Tonari, who's, taken to studying, actually. But Echo and March are not really happy, or are kind of tired of their tutor. Echo's kind of gone on the attack, actually, seemingly injuring both the tutor and March. Kai was arrested for making swords, and Hyro and Gugu were both arrested for getting in a fight. And yeah, just kind of pure anarchy at the house. So yeah, all that being said, let's dive right on into chapter 147.5, Back to the Present Part 2. So anyway, after all of that, they just kind of have a feast. We can see kind of sullenness from Kai, Hyro, and Gugu. Tonari is still studying while she eats. Echo is kind of feral, and March just looks tired, as Gugu just watches them all in shock. It's not that March is tired, it's that she's trying to learn how to use chopsticks. Specifically by using the sticks that she has in her hairband, which have those sticks always been there? I never really noticed them, but I never noticed them not being there either. It's either she was given chopsticks and she put them in her hairband. I think that's what that piece is called. Or it's she's always had these and she's kind of using them as chopsticks. Either way, Fushi's kind of watching her as she just can't fucking get into work. Admittedly, I don't really know how chopsticks work either. Either way, Echo, though, is just kind of full on. There's a kind of I don't want to say feral energy. I think I did say that earlier, but I kind of want to steer away from that. As she kind of attacks her food, stabbing it with her chopsticks. And we see she's just kind of making a mess of everything. Bowls are going flying. Marsh just kind of gives up. And Echo also kind of gives up in her own way as she just grabs some dumplings and starts shoving them into her mouth. She just doesn't really have a grasp on this. Fushi then turns to look towards Tonari, who's eating while furiously studying. Kai and Hyro are also eating. Hyro sort of exhausted, and Kai just sort of almost ashamed. And then Fushi turns towards Gugu, who just sort of, as he's eating, kind of grabs his face. Ow, that hurts. And Fushi sort of looks at him. Hey, Gugu, you, and he points at something. We can't actually see his face. But he says, this scar? I got that plastic surgery stuff. Okay. The issue with that is that we never really saw Gugu's face in the first place, so we don't quite know what he looked. We don't know exactly how he looked post-injury. And we don't really know what he looks like now. And we can't really see the scar anyway, which is, I guess, at this point, just a several years long running gag of never really seeing Gugu's face. Either way, Fushi kind of presses, your mask was busted. Oh, I just fell down some stairs. That's why my clothes are all ripped. What about Hyro? Him too. So that, I was about to start commenting on, that all seems kind of weird given how they got out of the cop car. Was the cop car for something completely different? But the odds of both of them falling down the stairs, he's lying. I don't know why he's lying. I don't really know what happened, but he's definitely lying. Either way, Hyro just then spits out his food. Blah! Gross! And Fushi kind of catches on to the fact that Gugu is lying here. What really happened? And Gugu kind of turns to him. What's the matter, Hyro? Blood. Do you have a cut in your mouth? Yeah, the lie is very much not holding up. And then we see, this is, Yuki's little sister, right? I think, yeah, Yuki's little sister. I got her confused for a second with Bon's little sister. And I was like, do they both have little sisters? Am I getting something confused? Anyway, we see Yuki's little sister and the grandpa both come up to Hyro along with Fushi. Oh, maybe he bit down on his false teeth. Oh no, that's Gugu, not Fushi. Gugu's the one who says, "Did they break when you fell earlier?" And then I think this is Yuki. Though we don't normally. He's kind of like the camera is sort of far enough away that he's not quite as detailed, and he looks a bit more nondescript than usual. Anyway, Yuki kind of tells Fushi, there, Fushi. Everyone just happened to be in bad condition today. If I hadn't had to step out for an errand, we wouldn't be worrying you right now. Sorry." So, okay, so I guess the food was all made by Yuki's grandpa. It's just like... there's something about that line that seems like even Yuki is in on this plot to kind of conceal whatever the fuck Gugu and Hyro got up to. I don't really know. Anyway, Fushi looks around. Oh yeah, where's Bon? And Yuki tells him he had to go overseas on business. That's interesting. How long has it been since we last saw him in universe? Because I feel like we last saw him really recently. Where is he gone? I don't know. Anyway, Messar then walks back in. Oh, that noisy brat's back. And Fushi runs up to him. Messar, what happened to everybody? And Messar just looks at him really confused. Huh? Nothing. What are you talking about? And Fushi kind of looks away. But everyone... they don't look happy. And again, I kind of called out last time how Fushi arriving and seeing everyone in various states of misery ties in with his confusion that anyone could be unhappy in this world. And we're seeing that more directly right there. And Messar looks at him. What? Does it look like everyone changed while you were gone? And Fushi kind of nods. We were all dragged into this new world with no warning. Now we're trying to figure out how to live there. That's all. Excuse me. That's actually a question I kind of have. And it's sort of the question that's been in the back of my mind for maybe since we first found out that spirits were actually real and not some elaborate metaphor thing, is that they were kind of conscious the whole time, right? Because we saw, back when Bon was sort of being introduced, that Tonari's Fae kind of reached out to him. Which means that she was conscious and she experienced the changing world, admittedly from a kind of observer standpoint. But she and the other ghosts, presumably, experienced the changing world, unless they were all just kind of chilling with Fushi in that tree where he spent 500 years. And so it's my point being, though, that it's kind of odd that all of a sudden they just don't know anything when ostensibly they should have experienced it, or at least from that observant position. Or maybe they were just kind of chilling with Fushi for 500 years, just sort of sitting there. But, Messar's getting at a pretty important point, though, is that, there's some adjustment issues. They spent their lives in a much less technologically advanced, much less culturally advanced, much more sort of, specifically in Gugu and Hyro's case, kind of eye for an eye world, where getting into a fight is not really an issue, where in Kai's case, swords are allowed, where with March and Echo, it's not that odd to not know how to read, and they're being forced into this world that has a completely different set of social mores. And how they will grow from that is sort of the question that Fushi never really considered. Tonari has called him out in the past for not considering how the rest of the group feels. Specifically for herself being forced back into her teenage body because Fushi is more than a little, inherently selfish. But yeah, anyway, now we're trying to figure out how to live there. That's all. And Fushi presses, and that's why they're all so down? Better than being dead, ain't it? Well, a new environment isn't enough to shake me. And Fushi looks at him, yeah, you haven't changed, Messar. And Messar looks at him, because I'm wide awake. You take a good look at your friends, too. Okay. So I'm trying to remember enough about Messar. I've never really gone into this before, but I'm not really a fan from post Jananda to Renril. I think that's easily the weakest part of the series. And so my memories of it aren't really things I held on to. Also, the Jananda and earlier is helped by the fact the anime is airing right now, and so it's kind of fresh in my brain. But I remember, like, Messar was like was he like the bastard son of the king of Renrail, or was he just a son that kind of got abandoned at some point? I know he was tied in with the monarchy at Renrail, but he was also a bandit, wasn't he? Or some kind of sellsword or violent guy who sort of, I don't know. I don't remember enough about Messar to know why he would adjust. Because when I started saying he was a bandit, I was like, wait a second, he'd be doing a lot worse in the New World than someone like Gugu, who was like fundamentally a good kid. Either way, you take a good look at your friends too. And so we cut to some time later. Fushi has come to Gugu, and he hands him a new mask. It's the same kind of mask, but he says it's new. Here, I made you a new one. Oh, thanks. And Fushi kind of presses, sorry if I'm wrong, but I don't think that scar is really from falling down. So we see Fushi kind of calling out Gugu on his bluff. And Gugu slams the mask on and then yells, "Yow! This thing hits my scar! Oh, sorry, it must be something else we can..." But then Gugu stops him. Oh, I know. Oh, and Fushi pulls out this, like, I just read the next panel. It's the crayfish mask from way back in Takunaha. What about this one? It's really fluffy. And Gugu kind of holds it. Oh, where'd this weird thing come from? Huh? It's the crayfish mask Rean made for you. Doesn't that take you back? Like, way back in, like, pre-time skip Takunaha. Which kind of stuns Gugu for a sec. Huh? Rean made it? Yeah. And Gugu kind of freaks out. All of that childhood crush energy comes back. Crap, I called it weird. Rean really made this for me? Yeah. Oh, right, she didn't get to give it to you. Oh yeah, hold on. When was the mask actually? Was that something she was going to give Gugu around the time of the party where Gugu died? I don't remember the detail of the mask exactly. I remember the mask being there, but I don't quite remember when it was. Either way, Rean never gave it to him, so he didn't quite realize it. So he puts it on, all happy, because even after all this time, he's still kind of crushing on Rean. How does it look? Good. Nice. But then Gugu takes it off anyway. Sort of continues, huh. Rean made this for me. And Fushi kind of nods, yep. And then says, I wish I could go back to Takunaha. Which sort of, ties in with everything Fushi's been going through the past couple of chapters. And Fushi's sort of stunned. Huh? Are you serious, Gugu? And we see Messar, who's listening into the conversation, and the chapter ends. Okay, so, first things first, we got more Gugu content in this chapter than we've gotten in months. It's good shit. I love Gugu. I love Gugu so much. He is the best boy, even when he's lying to Fushi about this new injury of his. But honestly, let's focus on the ending. I think the ending is the real important thing, because it ties in with everything Fushi's kind of been thinking that he's concretely been thinking since last chapter, but kind of what's been perhaps going in the back of his mind for a good bit longer. How he's been wondering, how could anyone be unhappy in this world? There's so much abundance, there's seemingly no poverty. Of course, there's always poverty, but nowhere near the extent of in the old world. There's so much abundance, there's so much, convenience, there's so much stuff to explore in the world. How could anyone want to die? Which isn't quite what Gugu is getting at here. He is not saying he wants to die, but he is expressing a distinct dissatisfaction with the world as it is, which is the important thing. And that all kind of comes together in I wish I could go back to Takunaha, which Fushi can't even imagine. The world has so much stuff here. It's so much, materially better than the old world. How could anyone want to go back? And it's a little bit, because it's Rean that sort of gets this thought process going in Gugu, it's slightly unclear if what he wants is Takunaha, or if what he wants is to go back and meet Rean again, and Pyoran and Boozman, and to go back to that home he had in Takunaha 700 or 800 years ago. It's a little bit unclear, and I imagine future chapters will go into a bit more detail, especially if next chapter kind of carries picks up where we left off here instead of having some kind of a skip. The next chapter opens with like Fushi kind of pressing Gugu about that because we excuse me, because we don't get an answer. We don't get an answer to that "Are you serious, Gugu?" But yeah, really, really interesting stuff to explore there. But then yeah, beyond that, it's just sort of like the first half is just more of everyone sort of being a little bit ill-adjusted to the present world. And that's something that I'm really excited to explore, especially given these last couple of chapters. It's some good, interesting drama that I can't wait to see play out. Unfortunately, according to Comixology, we are off the next 2 weeks. TYE does not come back until August 24th, so we have 3 weeks until we get a follow-up to this. But yeah, what we get is still really good. A lot of carrying on those themes of how are the older characters sort of adjusting to this brand new world, this technology, this society they've never quite imagined before. And I can't wait to see how that continues to be explored. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope y'all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!